one. Hi there, all you gurus, and welcome to our very first Innate to Innate broadcast. We have a very special guest here. This is Dr. Tom Preston, aka Coach Preston. He is the CEO of Full Coaching and Consulting and is also a speaker, a writer. He's a husband and a proud parent of 5 beautiful daughters. He's also the only person on the planet that I know that looks younger every year that he's on the planet. So welcome, Tom.
Hey, with an intro like that, Norm, how can I say anything but you're welcome. Nice to spend some time with you.
Yeah, this is great. Excellent. So, Tom, I know you have a couple of passions, or you have a passion, and one of your number one passions is getting people connected to their authentic expression. Can you share with our people a bit about how authentic expression relates to innate?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when I look in the universe, Norm, I see order, I see structure, I see intelligence. I see the opposite of the second law of thermodynamics called entropy, right? So that creative intelligence that I choose to call God, I think there's a subset of that within each individual living thing, every conscious thing, and it wants to express itself in its own unique or authentic way. And so to the degree that we can tap into who we are in our most authentic selves, our innate selves, and get really clear about who we are and who we're not, is to the degree that we get to play our role in the great play of life. And it amazes me, Norm, when I think about the 7 billion, two-legged ones on the planet and all the winged ones and finned ones and all of the living creatures and all of my tree brothers and sisters and all of the living, creatures, that this damn little green and blue planet spins as effortlessly as it does, And I contend that to the degree that there are, I perceive to be, challenges and problems in the world that maybe aren't as optimal as they could be, if we will just help, which is why I'm so supportive of what your cause and your mission, we could just help more people get clear about who they authentically are and operate and run their lives, behaviors, and businesses from that place. Man, this little green and blue planet is going to spin even more congruently on its axis.
Absolutely. So could you help our listeners out if they're maybe new to this conversation? And I know values plays a role in this. How do we begin to look inwards and begin to understand who we authentically are?
Well, it's a great question, Norm. And for me, values are definitely a way to take this intangible thing. I remember, I've read and reread and studied, the Tao Te Ching. And, they talk about the Tao, and the Tao that can be named is not the real Tao, the eternal Tao, right? So this authentic part of ourselves, I don't know that we could ever truly name it, because as soon as we name it, we create a binomial, we create a categorization. It's bigger than that. But what values do, in my mind, is they help us create a construct or put to words the essence of who we are in our lives. And the simplest shortcut, Norm, to values for me is to just really look at how you are living your lives, because how you live how you live our lives is a really good indicator about what we value. With the distinction being that I still in my life, and certainly my experience now, 20 years coach consulting, I find a lot of people are commonly get thinking that this is authentic for them, and they live with several pieces of I should do this, I ought to do this, I got to do this, I need to do this, I have to do this. Those are very lower vibration words in my world. And so if we just listen to our own language, and we can start to make distinctions about the things that we authentically love and desire and bring us joy, and those things that we ought to, got to, need to, have to, right? So people start to listen to their own words, look at their behaviors and how they're living their lives, and say, what must I believe or value in order to act or be that way? And is it truly authentic to who I know myself to be? That's good insights, Norm, into starting to understand what our values are. And once we are clear about our values, doing our best to live our lives congruently from those values.
Beautiful. A lot of great pieces there. I've been learning that, values and purpose, really, it's a process, isn't it? It's an ongoing process, moment to moment of tuning in, rather than thinking it's like a static set point that we're going to. So I really like that. And the other thing I wanted to highlight there was just the idea that, and I wanted to ask you a question actually about the lower vibration. When we're in the place of like the shoulds, is that an indication that we've adopted somebody else's values then?
I would say commonly, Norm, my experience with it is that I, or the people I've coached over the years, are basically putting someone else's values ahead of their own, right? They're abdicating to someone else's values, and they're saying that this is more important because this person is wiser than me, older than me, whatever, and so they're literally giving up some of their power, some of their own values, to someone else. And again, I don't want to paint that as a bad thing or an immoral thing. It's just a thing, and it can be a great guidance mechanism to help guide us towards what it is that we really do value. Because of course, well, I don't want to make a course, Norm, but from my perspective, that once we get clarity about our values and which are our operational values, which is versus what I call our treasured values, and there's a distinction there we may have time to talk about. But when we're clear about that, then when we live our lives from that place and make decisions on a day-to-day basis about our relationships, about our business, about our friends, about where we use our time, our energy, and our money, that's when life really becomes more fulfilling and more joyous, quite frankly, and more prosperous.
Yeah, for sure, and productive too, right?
Yeah.
You touched on something I want to hear it. I haven't learned it from you before, and that was the distinction between treasured values and operational values.
Yeah, exactly, Norman. And again, because I advocate for what you just picked up and talked about, which is the vitalistic flow of our values in terms of their expression, right? This is some more recent thinking on behalf of me and one of my mentors, where for me, for example, my highest value continues to be family. But because we're into a different phase of life, my wife and I are into the empty nest phase because our youngest of 5 went off to university. If you looked at how I live my life on a day-to-day basis, that value, which is very important, very treasured value of mine, if you look at how I live my life day-to-day now, it's not very operationalized because I've been working on it for almost 30 years, right? So it's still a very high treasured value of mine, so it's very high up my values list, but it's not in process. It's not right now. It's in a more quiescent phase of its expression, but that doesn't mean it's any less important to me or any less valued to me. And I think that this is a distinction that will hopefully serve a lot of people, because I've had a lot of clients confused over the 20 years I've been doing this to help them understand that distinction, because it's almost like they feel bad if family is their highest value if they don't call it that. But it's just right. Because it's treasured, it might not be as much in process right now.
Yeah, understand. You know what? The first time I did my value determinant exercise with you, I was actually surprised by it. I really thought that like spirituality, self-actualization, personal growth would be high on my list. Those are things that I thought, and I kind of put importance over. And when we did the exercise, you looked over it and you're like, no, Norm, family's top of the list here. And I was like, really? And it was, I was humbled by it a little bit. And when my mom was sick this spring, for those of you who don't know, she came down and she had stage 4 ovarian cancer. I dropped just about everything in my life. It was like she was my 100% focus. I was texting her 5 times a day. Every day I called her. She was on top of mind all the time. It was a real life experience, example for me of how values play out in our lives and how our top values we just naturally gravitate to. It wasn't something I had to think about or I had to I really should help my mom out or anything like that. It was just so authentic in my expression for her.
Yeah, that's a great example, Norm. I think of a client of mine in the Toronto area who years ago, when we did a time study, right? And we looked at his values, we had his values determination, and then we did a time study, and family was his high value, treasured, and he thought operationalized or in process. But when he looked at his time study, 6% of his week was invested in his family. And he said, that is a huge incongruency in my expression between what I value. And here's what's amazing, Norm, right? He's talking about efficiency and productivity and prosperity. He changed his time management structure to build more time in for his family, less time for his business. And mysteriously, magically, his business went up 20%. Well, how the hell did that happen? Well, because you're in alignment with divine order. You're in alignment with your innate. You're in alignment with what it is that's authentic to you. And the universe is conspiring to support us from that space.
Brilliant piece, brilliant piece. Now in the My Inner Guru program, we talk about linking our values to our wellness behaviors, which I think is a really important piece, because I'm realizing that I've been working out in somebody else's gym, right? Mm-hmm. And it's been something that's been a tremendous effort for me to do. And as I'm learning and really examining my life more, I'm like, Wow, there's an incongruency here with who I authentically am. So could you share with our listeners a little bit about how to get more clarity, how we can apply our values to our wellness behaviors?
Yeah, for sure. And I would say it comes with what I refer to as a linking exercise, right? When you can link, because a linking exercise is essentially like creating a new neural network or enhancing a neural network. If you go into, the neuron axon dendrite, model, it's really a way to do that. So what you do, Norm, is you take your highest values, like for example, my highest value, treasured value of family. And I would say, how does my state of well-being, how does that serve my highest value of family? And then just literally start to list or link, those ways that supports that value. And when you can see the support there, right, then it becomes a more natural or authentic or less energy process in order to just, if one of your wellness behaviors is to get to the gym, because you just mentioned it, then to just, go do that. You almost don't have to think about it. It's a natural expression of who you are. Just like as you pointed out, Norm, when your mom was sick, it was just a natural, authentic piece for you to just support her in every which way you could, right? So if you want to get to that place with your wellness behaviors, including, keeping your chiropractic appointments and all the other things that go into a wellness formula, linking how they support your values is a really, really key and important tool to use to do that.
Excellent. And I think a little more than that too, I love that piece, is through our values, we can learn out more who we are and then get clarity on what exercise would be most appropriate for us, what would light us up and what would feel most authentic for us.
Yeah, I agree. And that will change over time too, Norma. That will evolve over time, right? And there may well be some constants. Like I've been a meditator for, coming into 30 years. And I've been on and off it, but mostly on it, like to the largest percentage over the many years I've been meditating. But the form with which I do it changes and varies. Just like my sports and athletics and fitness, it's, the form changes over time. But the essence of why I want to do it, doesn't change because that supports my values.
Yeah, excellent. We can go on and on here. There's lots of great material. This is awesome, Tom. And I think there's a few listeners out there who would like to go further with you. And could you share with us perhaps who you like to work with and how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we love to work. Our company's really designed to work with conscious entrepreneurs that want to express more of their authentic greatness to the world. And certainly we've worked in the health space for a long time, particularly in chiropractic, because that's my core profession, as you all know, Norm. But we've worked with a lot of different entrepreneurs and different architects and engineers and electricians and just, people that have a conscious desire to express their greatness, to the world from an authentic space, right? So those are the people that we love to work with. People would love to get in, find out a little bit more about who we are and what we do. They could go to our website. It's, www.fullcirclecoachingandconsulting.com, all spelled out long form. So it takes a bit to type it in the first time, but my intention is that it's worth the journey when you get there. We have a toolbox there for people to go and explore and do some inner work on their own. And of course, if they'd like some support, we'd be happy to chat with them and see if what we offer is going to move them forward on their journey.
Excellent. That's awesome. Well, I would really encourage everybody to have a look at that. We'll include your website link in our Facebook and look forward to passing this on to as many people as we can. Awesome, Tom. Well, until the next time our paths cross, the innate in me blesses the innate in you.
And me as well. Norm, thank you so much for being who you are and trusting your inner voice, your authentic voice to do what you're doing.
Thanks so much. Awesome. Okay. Be well, everybody. Take care.
Take care.
Awesome.
I'm still seeing a live green thing.
Oh.